You're on the edge of drifting off. Your physical body begins powering down, while your thoughts continue their endless chatter. Most people squander these precious moments. They reach for their phones, spiral into anxiety, or let the same exhausting mental loops play on repeat. In Buddhist philosophy, sleep isn't viewed as merely checking out from reality. It's seen as a doorway. As your everyday awareness loosens its hold, the underlying mental programming becomes accessible and malleable. This is the space where ingrained behaviors can shift, where your sense of self becomes fluid, and where pain can be interrupted, not through willpower or motivation, but through genuine insight. Pay attention here, and tonight becomes more than just the day's conclusion. It becomes a subtle transformation of tomorrow's version of you. Part 1. The voice in your head isn't your identity. From morning until night, there's constant internal commentary running. It narrates everything, offers opinions, makes predictions, passes judgment, draws comparisons. Eventually, you become so accustomed to this voice that you stop recognizing it as separate. You simply assume it is you. Buddhism identifies this as the core error. Not a moral failing or factual misunderstanding, but a case of mistaken identity. You've confused an ongoing process with your actual self. Examine how thoughts really function. They emerge uninvited. A random memory surfaces. Anxiety grabs your focus. An image appears, then vanishes. You never authorized their arrival or crafted their content. If thoughts genuinely were you, you'd be their author and director. But you're not. That inconsistency alone should make you question the narrative you've accepted your entire life. Thoughts feel deeply personal because they speak in first person. I messed up. I have to handle this. I'm inadequate. The language creates a sense of intimacy, but intimacy doesn't equal ownership. A speaker can broadcast your name. That doesn't make it you. Buddhism emphasizes this separation because your suffering hinges on it. Once you accept every thought as a truth about your identity, you're imprisoned. This prison becomes especially visible before sleep. You settle into bed, darkness falls, and paradoxically, your mind accelerates. Past exchanges replay endlessly. Fictional futures unfold. Regrets pile up relentlessly. If this voice truly represented you, why would it fight against rest? Why undermine the very restoration you desperately need? The answer is straightforward and unsettling. It's not operating for your benefit. It's simply running its conditioning. Buddhism doesn't demand you quiet the mind. That's a naive goal that consistently fails. The actual instruction is more specific. Recognize the distinction between a thought and the awareness noticing that thought. When a sentence materializes in your mind, something is already present to register it. That presence doesn't react with panic when thoughts arrive. It doesn't debate them or add commentary. It simply recognizes a thought exists. This isn't abstract theory. It's verifiable experience. You couldn't detect a thought if you couldn't observe it. Observation precedes the thought. The thought follows. Yet most people invert this relationship, living as though thoughts create awareness rather than appearing inside it. When you begin recognizing this before sleep, something changes. A thought declares, "Tomorrow's going to be terrible." Rather than following that narrative, you perceive it as a mental occurrence, just words moving through consciousness. The message might still be uncomfortable, but its dominance fades. It stops feeling like a vision of the future It becomes recognizable as mental static. This is why Buddhism teaches you don't need to battle thoughts. Fighting them assumes they hold real power. Resistance actually strengthens the cycle. Your mind interprets pushback as significance. Whatever you allow to exist without reacting gradually loses intensity. Whatever you struggle against intensifies and multiplies. This principle becomes crystal clear at night. The harder you push yourself to fall asleep, the more awake you become. The more aggressively you try to silence your inner voice, the more volume it gains. Instead, approach thoughts the way you'd treat distant sounds. You don't run after a passing vehicle to silence it. You don't grapple with the breeze. You simply let it move on. Apply the same principle here. When a thought emerges, acknowledge it without adding layers of interpretation. Don't endorse it or fight it. Just see it for what it is. With consistent practice, something surprisingly powerful unfolds. Your brain begins understanding that thoughts aren't crises requiring immediate response. Anxiety diminishes because anxiety feeds on conviction, not on the thought's mere existence. Your ego becomes less rigid because ego is essentially a fortress built around certain ideas. Self-criticism loses its sting because it relies on you accepting harsh, internal judgments as absolute truth. The observer, the awareness that registers all of this, remains constant while thoughts constantly shift. Thoughts are chaotic, repetitive, and contradictory. Awareness is calm. It doesn't hurry. It doesn't tell stories. It doesn't seek validation. Buddhism directs you toward this, not as some mystical concept, but as a tangible foundation. When you settle into simply observing, sleep arrives effortlessly because there's nothing left requiring management. Over time, this nighttime practice transforms your daytime experience too. You begin noticing thoughts forming earlier in their cycle. You catch reactions developing before they convert into speech or behavior. You discover a small space between urge and action. That space is liberation. Not liberation from having thoughts, but liberation from automatically obeying them. This is genuine mental rewiring. You're not installing replacement beliefs. You're withdrawing automatic credibility from existing ones. Each night you practice viewing thoughts as passing phenomena. Your nervous system recalibrates. It discovers that thought's presence doesn't demand action. It realizes that quiet doesn't equal danger. It understands that awareness persists even when you release control. Eventually, understanding deepens into direct experience. The mental chatter continues, but you no longer inhabit that running narrative. You stop allowing every passing sentence to define your existence. Sleep becomes deeper, because there's no longer an anxious supervisor attempting to solve everything at midnight. You wake more lucid, not because your challenges disappeared, but because you've separated yourself from the voice, constantly describing them. This forms Buddhism's essential groundwork before anything else. Before compassion, before discipline, before awakening, first recognize reality. The voice in your mind is a phenomenon, not your core self. Once you truly grasp this, suffering releases its hold, and sleep transforms from a struggle into something natural. Part 2. Desire fuels. Your mental restlessness, most people believe their race in mind at night, signals something fundamentally wrong with their life. Buddhism offers a different diagnosis. The actual issue isn't your circumstances, it's wanting circumstances to be different when change isn't possible in that moment. This wanting is craving, and it operates far more subtly and harmfully than most recognize. Craving doesn't always appear as hunger for pleasure. At night, it masquerades as worry, planning, or harsh self-judgment. You're lying there and your mind starts bargaining with reality. If only I'd responded differently. Tomorrow absolutely must improve. I need to resolve this immediately. These thoughts seem productive, even essential. But underneath runs a hidden ultimatum. Reality must conform to your expectations before you can feel at peace. Buddhism cuts straight to the core here. That ultimatum creates restlessness, not the actual events, memories, or uncertainties, but the craving beneath them. Your mind isn't agitated simply because it thinks. It's agitated because it desperately wants relief from thinking, while paradoxically, believing more thinking will provide that relief. This contradiction keeps people staring at the ceiling for hours. Watch how craving operates as you try to sleep. Your body signals exhaustion, but your mind keeps grasping forward. It seeks guarantees about tomorrow or resolution about yesterday. It wants certainty, influence, fairness, affirmation. When these remain out of reach, the mind contracts. That contraction manifests physically: muscle tension, restricted breathing, an inability to settle into rest. Craving exhausts you because it never fulfills its promise. The mind whispers, "Just process this one more thing and then I'll relax." But tranquility never arrives through feeding craving. It only arrives when craving ceases. Buddhism doesn't moralize about this. It describes craving as a mechanical process. Add fuel, and the engine runs. Remove fuel, and it stops. The difficulty is that most people can't identify craving while it's occurring. They genuinely believe they're problem-solving. But honestly, ask yourself, how many actual problems have you ever resolved lying in bed at midnight? Virtually none. Yet the mind persists, not because it's effective, but because craving perpetually dangles the illusion that relief is just one more thought away. Before sleep, Buddhism encourages you to examine directly what your mind is demanding. Strip each thought to its essence. Is it demanding certainty, approval, security, vindication, control? Once you clearly see the underlying demand, something crucial becomes apparent. No amount of mental activity will satisfy it. The demand itself creates the problem. Many people misinterpret Buddhism at this juncture. They assume letting go means suppressing wants or becoming passive. That's incorrect. Letting go means recognizing craving is unnecessary. It means understanding that peace doesn't come from obtaining what you want, but from releasing the insistence that you must have it immediately. When this insight lands, even momentarily, your body responds instantly. Muscles release, breathing expands, your nervous system exits crisis mode. Sleep becomes accessible not because your life's issues resolved themselves, but because the fight against reality has temporarily ceased. Craving also reveals why distractions feel so appealing at night. Endless scrolling, videos, background noise. These don't actually relax you. They're numbing agents, temporarily masking the discomfort of resisting what is. But once the stimulation ends, craving resurfaces with increased intensity. Buddhism doesn't ask you to reduce distractions through sheer willpower. It demonstrates why distraction fundamentally fails. Rather than feeding craving, simply observe it. Notice the impulse to think, strategize, or rehash events. Don't chase it, but don't push it away either. Allow the urge to exist fully in your physical experience. The constricted chest, the fidgety energy, the background anxiety. When craving is permitted to be felt without being acted upon, it exhausts itself naturally. This feels uncomfortable initially because you've conditioned yourself to escape it. But it's effective because craving cannot sustain itself without forward motion. Night after night, this practice fundamentally rewires your brain. It discovers that discomfort doesn't demand instant resolution. It learns that not obtaining what you want won't destroy you. Gradually, your mind stops catastrophizing in the face of uncertainty. Restlessness diminishes because craving loses its persuasive power. This doesn't eliminate wanting things from your life. It eliminates demanding satisfaction in moments where satisfaction is impossible. Sleep represents exactly such a moment. You cannot think yourself into rest. You cannot manufacture peace. You can only stop pursuing it. Buddhism teaches that craving perpetuates itself because it rests on a false premise: the belief that external circumstances must align perfectly before you can be okay. Before sleep, this belief naturally dissolves if you allow it. You're lying motionless. Nothing is being resolved. Yet awareness persists. This reveals something quiet but profound. You don't require resolution to exist. You don't require certainty to rest. As this understanding deepens, sleep becomes both deeper and more reliable. But more significantly, your waking life transforms. You become less reactive, less frantic, less dominated by outcome dependency. You still take action, but without the internal friction that comes from demanding life conform to your will. Craving drives restlessness, but it also opens the door to liberation. When you stop fueling it before sleep, your mind rediscovers stillness, not through force, but because there's nothing left to pursue. Part 3. Impermanence as practical technology. Most people encounter the idea that everything is temporary and file it away as pleasant wisdom, something to recall during difficult times. Buddhism approaches impermanence completely differently. It's not a soothing phrase. It's a precision tool. Applied correctly, it dissolves fear, attachment, and psychological suffering at their foundation. Thoughts disturb you so deeply, not because they're inherently painful, but because you unconsciously believe they're permanent. Your mind defaults to assuming permanence. A negative mood feels like a fixed condition. Anxiety feels like a trap you're confined within. A mistake feels like it permanently defines your character. This unconscious assumption fuels panic and resistance. Before sleep, this assumption becomes unmistakable. A memory surfaces, and your body responds as though it's unfolding right now. A worry emerges, and your nervous system reacts as if facing genuine danger. Why? Because your mind assumes the experience will persist indefinitely unless you actively intervene. Impermanence directly dismantles that assumption. Buddhism invites you to notice something simple yet revolutionary. Nothing you experience remains identical for even a few seconds. Not thoughts, not feelings, not physical sensations, not even your awareness of them. Everything is constantly moving, whether you resist it or not. You don't need to create change. It's already underway. Lie still and observe carefully. A thought materializes. If you leave it alone, it transforms. It weakens, morphs into something different, or disappears completely. The same applies to emotions, Fear intensifies, then subsides. Sadness surges, then recedes. Even physical discomfort shifts and fluctuates. This isn't philosophical speculation, it's directly observable. Most people miss this because they immediately interfere. They debate with thoughts, condemn emotions, or seek distraction. Interference freezes the natural process. Pure observation allows impermanence to function unobstructed. This is precisely why impermanence functions as a tool rather than mere concept. When you genuinely witness and experience changings independently, you stop attempting to escape it. And the instant you stop escaping, suffering dramatically decreases. Discomfort may remain present, but the terror surrounding it evaporates. Before sleep, this matters more than at any other moment. Mental noise quiets down, sensations become clearer. You can actually witness change unfolding in real time. A worry emerges, intensifies, then dissipates. A memory gradually loses its emotional intensity through repetition. Your nervous system absorbs something essential. Nothing requires fixing for relief to arrive naturally. The discovery rewires fear at fundamental levels. Fear exists to shield you from what appears permanent and dangerous. When your brain recognizes that internal experiences resolve themselves, it stops activating crisis protocols. Sleep becomes more accessible because your system no longer feels imprisoned. Impermanence also shatters the illusion of fixed identity. You think I am anxious, you think I am damaged, you think I am falling behind. But these are temporary mental states being described, not truths about a solid, unchanging self. Watch closely, and you'll notice how rapidly these states shift. If they genuinely constituted your identity, they wouldn't appear and disappear. Buddhism stresses this because identity-based suffering carries the heaviest weight. When pain seems permanent and personally defining, it becomes intolerable. When recognized as temporary and impersonal, it becomes manageable. Impermanence dissolves the "this is who I am" narrative that keeps people imprisoned. There's a reason your mind initially resists this insight. If everything is impermanent, then control becomes limited. The ego craves stability, it demands guarantees, it insists on certainty. Impermanence threatens that illusion. But once genuinely accepted, it delivers a deeper form of security. The security of understanding that no condition can hold you captive permanently. Before sleep, you don't need to chant, "This will pass," like a mantra that transforms impermanence into hopeful expectation, which remains a form of attachment. Instead, directly witness things passing. Notice your breath shifting. Observe the spaces between thoughts. Feel how sensations flicker rather than remaining static. This observation cultivates patience effortlessly. You stop pressuring experiences toward conclusions. You stop insisting on relief according to your schedule. You allow time to accomplish what it naturally does, bring things to an end. Over successive nights, something significant shifts. Your mind stops catastrophizing temporary conditions. A difficult day no longer defines your entire existence. A sleepless night doesn't become evidence of personal inadequacy. You cultivate trust in change itself, not optimism, trust. This trust transforms how you approach sleep. You no longer panic when thoughts emerge. You know they'll recede. You no longer tense when emotions surface. You've witnessed them dissolve too many times to believe their warnings. Impermanence also loosens attachment to pleasant experiences. When your mind stops clinging to agreeable states, it stops dreading their departure. This equilibrium reduces emotional volatility and creates greater stability. Sleep deepens because there's less internal grasping and pushing away. Buddhism doesn't teach impermanence to make you disconnected from life. It teaches it to liberate you from avoidable suffering. When you stop treating transient experiences as permanent realities, your mind settles into accepting what actually is. Before sleep, impermanence remains constantly accessible. You don't need to manufacture tranquility, only observe change. In doing so, you help your body recall something it inherently understands. Nothing endures, including discomfort. When that truth truly registers, rest arrives naturally. Part 4. Your exhaustion comes from fighting reality. Most people attribute exhaustion to overactivity. Buddhism identifies something far more depleting, disputing what has already occurred. This dispute runs continuously beneath conscious awareness, particularly at night. It masquerades as analysis, reflection, or self-development, but it's actually resistance. Resistance is refusing to allow reality to be what it is. It manifests as replaying exchanges, attempting to revise the past, rehearsing alternate versions of yourself, or imagining how situations should have unfolded. None of this alters anything, yet it consumes tremendous mental resources. That energy depletion registers as profound fatigue that sleep alone cannot remedy. Before sleep, resistance becomes undeniable. Your body lies motionless, distractions vanish, and your mind turns inward. That's when unresolved matters demand attention. Your mind attempts rewriting the day. It seeks closure, justice, vindication, or influence. But the day has concluded. Reality has already progressed forward. Buddhism states this plainly. Pain is inevitable. Resistance is chosen. The exhaustion you experience doesn't originate from the event itself. It stems from refusing to accept that the event now belongs to history. This isn't moral criticism. It's mechanical cause and effect. Struggling against what exists generates friction. Friction produces heat. Heat consumes energy. Notice resistance's physical signature: clenched jaw, rigid shoulders, restricted breathing, constant preparedness to act despite having nothing actionable to do. This state blocks genuine rest. Sleep requires letting go. Resistance maintains your nervous system on high alert. Many confuse acceptance with endorsement. They assume accepting reality means approving or liking it. That's incorrect. Acceptance simply means ceasing to deny what already exists. You can acknowledge something was unjust, hurtful, or harmful without perpetuating internal combat against it. The struggle drains you, not the memory itself. Before sleep, attempt something straightforward yet uncomfortable. Rather than rehashing the day, state bare facts without interpretation. This occurred. Those words were spoken. This feeling emerged. No accusations, no rationalizations, just acknowledgement. You might experience a surge of discomfort initially. That's withdrawal from resistance. When resistance releases, even momentarily, your body responds instantly. Muscles release tension. Breathing decelerates. Mental sharpness softens. This isn't relaxation techniques producing effects. This is your nervous system recognizing the conflict has ended. Resistance also sustains identity. Your story of who you are depends on what you oppose. Victim, hero, failure, unrealized potential. When you cease resisting, these identities lose their power source. That can feel destabilizing initially. Many people prefer remaining exhausted over abandoning a familiar self-narrative. Buddhism cuts through this attachment. It reveals that maintaining identity is expensive. You expend energy daily protecting an image of yourself and your life. At night, when that effort weakens, anxiety escalates. Your mind frantically attempts holding the narrative intact. Releasing feels like surrendering control. But what you're actually surrendering is pointless work. The instant you stop mentally attempting to repair the past, something unexpected occurs. The past loses its emotional intensity, not because it's been resolved, but because you've stopped energizing it. Memories without resistance become mere images. They lose their power to wound. This practice doesn't render you passive in life. During waking hours, action remains important. Reflection retains value. But nighttime isn't the arena for resistance. There's nothing constructive to accomplish there. Buddhism acknowledges this and teaches aligning effort with reality instead of battling it. Over time, this lesson transforms your fatigue levels, even after complete nights of sleep. You wake with greater energy because you've stopped incinerating it internally. You think more clearly because your mind is no longer congested with unfinished disputes. Sleep deepens not through force, but because nothing obstructs it anymore. When resistance falls away, rest becomes the body's natural baseline state. Buddhism's insight here is straightforward and uncomfortable. You're not exhausted because life is difficult. You're exhausted because you refuse to accept life as it already exists. Before sleep, understand this: reality cannot be bargained with. Your only choice is whether you continue battling it or finally release the burden. When you stop resisting, even briefly, your body grasps something profound. It doesn't need sustained vigilance. The threat has passed. In that recognition, sleep arrives independently. Part 5. The self you protect is an artificial structure. Throughout each day, you're maintaining something, an image, a position, a narrative about your identity. You may not consciously register it, but substantial mental energy flows into protecting this construction: how others perceive you, how you perceive yourself, whether you're correct, competent, ethical, resilient, victimized, advancing, or falling behind. Buddhism doesn't classify this as personality. It identifies it as a process, and an extremely costly one. The self you believe yourself to be isn't a concrete entity. It's continuously assembled from thoughts, memories, comparisons, and reactions. But because this assembly happens ceaselessly, it feels permanent, like architecture that's always existed. Buddhism highlights something disturbing. If you stop fueling the structure, it weakens. Stop long enough, and it disintegrates. During daylight hours, the self seems essential. You require it to function, make choices, navigate social dynamics. But at night, when there's nothing to perform and no one to persuade, the self becomes weight. This explains why many struggle with sleep. The machinery maintaining identity doesn't know how to deactivate. Before sleep, notice what your mind is defending: a reputation, a past decision, a future version of yourself. The need to be vindicated in a concluded argument. The compulsion to justify your current life position. These defenses feel instinctive, but they're learned patterns, and they keep your nervous system activated long after your body signals readiness for rest. Buddhism clarifies, The self isn't problematic. Clinging to it is. The effort required to maintain the story generates tension. The fear of losing the story produces anxiety. Sleep becomes elusive because letting go feels like erasure. This fear operates subtly. It manifests as thoughts like, if I stop thinking, I'll lose control. Or if I stop reviewing my life, something will go wrong. These thoughts aren't about protection. They're about identity preservation. Your mind is safeguarding a narrative, not your actual welfare. Before sleep, Buddhism invites you to abandon the role. Not permanently, just momentarily. You don't need to be successful, evolving, or understood right now. You don't need to be virtuous or flawed. You don't need answers to your life's questions. All of that can wait until tomorrow. This proves harder than it sounds because the self craves continuity. It demands persistence across time. But sleep interrupts continuity. Conscious control fades, and the self panics because it requires constant reinforcement. Watch what unfolds when you stop feeding the narrative. When a thought about your identity emerges, don't develop it further. Allow it to end. There may be a flash of emptiness or disorientation. That's expected. It's the space previously filled with self-commentary. Within that space, something unexpected reveals itself. Awareness persists. Breathing continues. The body functions. You remain present even without a self-story. This directly challenges the mind's assumption that identity is necessary for existence. This recognition brings profound relief. Your nervous system relaxes because it no longer needs to guard an image. There's nothing to defend in darkness, no observers, no metrics, no comparisons. Over time, this practice transforms how seriously you take yourself during waking hours. You still act, plan, and care, but with less rigidity. Criticism wounds less deeply, praise carries less weight. You bounce back faster from errors because the self you're protecting is no longer fragile. Sleep improves because your mind discovers that nothing harmful occurs when the story pauses. Letting go stops feeling threatening. It begins feeling organic. Buddhism doesn't demand you eliminate the self. It asks you to recognize what it actually is, a useful but temporary construction. When it's unnecessary, you can set it aside. Before sleep, the self serves no purpose. The instant you stop maintaining it, tremendous energy becomes available. That energy returns to your body as rest. When you finally permit yourself to be nobody for a while, you don't vanish, you rest. Part 6. Awareness persists even as control dissolves. One of humanity's deepest fears is losing control, not in dramatic scenarios, but in quiet moments, especially before sleep. The mind resists drifting off because drifting feels like disappearing, like releasing the steering wheel while still in motion. Buddhism examines this fear directly and reveals it as groundless. You've been conditioned to believe constant control ensures safety. Planning, monitoring, thinking, checking. Your mind equates mental activity with protection. So when sleep approaches and control begin dissolving, the mind panics. It bombards you with thoughts, memories, and worries to maintain command. Buddhism doesn't ask you to force surrender. It asks you to notice something already occurring. As you lie in bed, control naturally fades. Thoughts fragment. Attention wanders. The capacity to maintain coherent narrative weakens. Yet something remains aware of all this. That awareness doesn't require effort. You're not generating it. You're not sustaining it. It's simply present. Even as thoughts lose definition, awareness continues registering the fading, drifting, and silence. This directly contradicts the assumption that control is essential for existence. Notice how this unfolds nightly. You don't consciously determine sleep's exact arrival. It happens. You don't orchestrate the transition. It unfolds. Control fails every single night, and nothing catastrophic results. Yet your mind treats this as danger rather than natural process. The fear isn't actually about sleep itself. It's the fear that if you stop managing your mind, something will go wrong. Buddhism invites you to directly test this fear. Allow control to weaken without interference. Let attention float freely. Let thoughts dissolve. Observe what actually occurs. What occurs isn't chaos, it's effortless continuity. Breathing persists. The body remains secure. Awareness doesn't extinguish. The mind's supervisory role is revealed as optional. This realization builds trust deeper than intellectual conviction. You don't need to persuade yourself that releasing is safe. You directly experience it. Night after night, your nervous system learns that release doesn't equal danger. This trust extends into waking life. You stop micromanaging your internal world. You permit emotions to surface without immediately attempting to regulate them. You stop panicking when thoughts blur under pressure. You've witnessed what happens when control dissolves. Nothing fractures. Before sleep, this lesson carries particular weight. Rather than trying to force sleep, permit the loss of control to occur naturally. Notice the impulse to reassert mental command. Then let that impulse dissipate. Your mind discovers it doesn't need constant activation. Many unknowingly resist sleep because they conflate releasing with vulnerability. Buddhism reframes vulnerability as inherent. Every night you relinquish consciousness. Every morning it returns. There's no evidence that control is what maintains your coherence. As this understanding deepens, sleep-related anxiety dissolves. You no longer feel compelled to monitor the process. You stop evaluating whether you're falling asleep quickly enough. The body assumes command. Buddhism doesn't romanticize this, it treats it as practical insight. When your system trusts that awareness persists effortlessly, it stops expending energy on needless vigilance. Eventually, surrender stops resembling loss. It feels like relief. You stop bracing against darkness. You stop clutching thoughts like a lifeline. Control was never the source of safety. Awareness was always present, quietly observing, even while control pretended supremacy. When you release at night, you don't vanish. You discover you were never the one maintaining everything to begin with. Part 7. What you feed your mind before sleep determines who you become. Most people undervalue the day's final moments. They treat them as collapsing into unconsciousness, a passive shutdown. Buddhism recognizes those moments as a transfer. The conscious, effortful mind releases its grip, and whatever has been repeated, accepted, and rehearsed settles deeper. This isn't mystical, it's conditioning. Your mind doesn't reset during sleep, it consolidates. Patterns reinforced before sleep carry forward. Emotional atmospheres, unresolved tensions, habitual reactions don't evaporate overnight. They strengthen. This is why your final mental states matter far more than commonly understood. Most nights the mind consumes the same material: conflict replays, self-condemnation, future anxieties, past regrets. The problem isn't that these thoughts arise. The problem is consuming them unconsciously, without awareness. Whatever you repeatedly engage becomes familiar. Whatever becomes familiar becomes automatic. Buddhism addresses this without alarm. It doesn't demand forced positivity or affirmation repetition that would only introduce more craving and resistance. Instead, it teaches something more effective. Orient the mind toward clarity and non-aggression. Before sleep, you're not attempting self-improvement. You're establishing conditions. There's a distinction. Improvement implies struggle. Conditions imply alignment. You're simply choosing which mental states to stop energizing and which to allow. The pre-sleep mind is receptive because defenses lower. The analytical layer weakens, emotional memory intensifies. This explains bedtime ruminations' powerful impact. But this same receptivity can be used intentionally. Notice your mind's quality as the day concludes. Is it harsh, demanding, urgent? This quality doesn't remain mental. It embeds into your nervous system. You wake carrying it. Over time, it becomes your baseline. Buddhism invites you to conclude the day without hostility toward your experience. This doesn't mean approving of your life or endorsing your choices. It means ending the internal assault. Self-directed aggression before sleep proves particularly harmful because there's no counterbalance, no action, no correction, just repetition. Non-hostility isn't indifference. It's the absence of violence toward your own consciousness. When regret surfaces, you don't punish yourself for it. When fear emerges, you don't condemn yourself for experiencing it. You allow these states to exist without amplification. This simple adjustment transforms conditioning profoundly. Your brain learns that mistakes are survivable, that fear doesn't necessitate self-punishment, that awareness can contain discomfort without adding cruelty. Over weeks, this diminishes chronic anxiety and self-criticism at their foundation. Buddhism also emphasizes recollection before sleep, not of accomplishments but of understanding. Remembering that thoughts aren't directives, that craving is chosen, that experiences are transient, that identity is fabricated. These reminders don't function as beliefs. They function as orientation. What you recall before sleep becomes the framework through which your mind organizes experience. If the framework is fear, the mind awakens defensive. If the framework is clarity, the mind awakens more stable. Many attempts self-correction during waking hours, then undermine themselves at night. They invest hours cultivating discipline or insight, then feed their mind turmoil before sleep. Buddhism views this as squandered effort. Conditioning doesn't respond to intention alone. It responds to repetition. This is why monks protect their minds at night, not through force, but through discernment. They don't indulge mental theatrics when the mind is most absorbent. They don't rehearse identity narratives. They don't feed resentment or elaborate fantasies. They allow simplicity to settle. Over time, this creates observable change. You wake less reactive, not because circumstances improved overnight, but because your mind stopped steeping in agitation each evening. Emotional recovery accelerates. Stress dissipates faster. This also clarifies why sleep can be restorative even during difficult periods. When the mind isn't contaminated before rest, the body can heal itself. When the day's final state is clarity rather than conflict, the nervous system resets more thoroughly. Buddhism doesn't promise overnight transformation. It promises trajectory. Night after night, Your mind is sculpted by what you permit to reverberate as consciousness fades. If you conclude days feeding anxiety, you become more anxious. If you conclude days feeding self-attack, you become more self-critical. If you conclude days feeding awareness, patience, and non-resistance, those qualities strengthen quietly. You don't need to add anything. You only need to stop nourishing what damages you when you're most vulnerable to it. The final moments before sleep aren't vacant. They're formative. What you place there is what develops. When you grasp this, sleep transcends mere rest. It becomes practice. Over time, you don't wake as a transformed person. You wake as a less conditioned one. Part 8. Silence isn't void. It's where the mind recalibrates. Most people fear silence. Not external silence, but internal silence. The instant thoughts decelerate, discomfort surfaces. The mind scrambles to fill the void with noise, memories, fantasies, worries. Buddhism observes this reaction clearly and identifies it plainly. Addiction to mental stimulation. Silence feels threatening because it eliminates familiar anchors. No narrative, no challenge to address, no identity requiring reinforcement. For a mind conditioned to exist through constant activity, silence feels like free fall. This explains why many unconsciously resist falling asleep. Sleep requires passing through silence, and silence exposes what the mind typically conceals behind noise. Buddhism doesn't treat silence as some mystical state to pursue. It recognizes it as the natural condition underlying mental activity. Thoughts are additions layered on top. Silence is the foundation. When you stop interfering, silence doesn't require creation. It simply reveals itself. Before sleep, this becomes especially apparent. As the mind decelerates, gaps emerge between thoughts. Initially, they're fleeting, a second, a fraction of a second. Most people immediately populate these gaps with fresh thinking because the absence feels unsettling. Buddhism trains you to remain present. When you stay in these gaps without grasping for thought, something significant occurs. The nervous system begins recalibrating. Silence isn't neutral to your body. It signals safety, no threat detected, no action required. This is why genuine silence feels soothing once you stop resisting it. The discomfort people experience around silence isn't caused by silence itself. It's caused by withdrawing from constant mental stimulation. The mind has learned to self-soothe through thinking. When that stimulation disappears, unease emerges. Buddhism recognizes this without pathologizing it. It simply encourages patience. If you allow silence to exist without labeling, judging, or attempting to intensify it, it stabilizes independently. You begin sensing presence without narration, awareness without commentary. This is profoundly unfamiliar to most people, which explains the initial strangeness. Silence also exposes how superfluous much mental activity truly is. When thoughts pause, nothing collapses. You don't evaporate. Your body continues. Awareness persists. This directly challenges the assumption that thinking sustains your existence or functionality. Before sleep, silence is the threshold the mind must cross. If you continue dragging thoughts along, sleep remains superficial or postponed. When you allow silence to expand naturally, sleep deepens effortlessly. Buddhism identifies something subtle. Silence isn't something you enter. It's something you stop abandoning. Each thought pulls you away from it. When thoughts decelerate, you simply remain where you've always been. This understanding transforms how you relate to restlessness. Restlessness isn't signaling malfunction. It's the mind struggling to maintain entertainment when stimulation is withdrawn. When you perceive this clearly, restlessness loses its intensity. Over time, learning to rest in silence before sleep produces effects extending far beyond nighttime. You become less dependent on distraction during waking hours. You tolerate boredom without alarm. You stop compulsively saturating every moment with input. This creates mental space. Space enables perspective. Perspective diminishes reactivity. Silence practiced gently and consistently becomes one of the mind's most powerful, stabilizing forces. Buddhism doesn't encourage chasing silent states or measuring advancement. That would transform silence into another craving object. Instead, it asks you to stop interrupting the natural quiet that surfaces when effort relaxes. Before sleep, silence is already approaching. You don't need to assist it. You only need to stop resisting it. Let the mind wind down without substituting another narrative. When silence is permitted, the mind resets at a level deeper than unconscious sleep alone provides. It's not oblivious rest, it's conscious unwinding. Eventually, silence stops feeling like void. It feels substantial, stable, and anchoring. You stop fearing it because you recognize it as your origin point. When you can rest in silence, even momentarily, sleep no longer resembles losing control. It feels like returning home. Part 9. Suffering persists because you make everything personal. One of the mind's most deeply embedded patterns is personalization. Whatever emerges, the mind instantly frames it as happening to someone, to me, because of me, concerning me. This pattern operates so automatically that most never examine it. Buddhism does, because this single mental movement amplifies suffering more than any external circumstance could. Pain alone is manageable. Sensation alone is neutral. Even intense emotion can pass through your system without causing lasting harm. What converts pain into suffering is the instant the mind declares, "This shouldn't be happening to me," or "This reveals something about who I am." That interpretation crystallizes the experience. Before sleep, personalization becomes especially pronounced. A memory surfaces and instantly transforms into "my mistake." A fear emerges and becomes "my future." A sensation of heaviness becomes "my problem." The experience itself is fleeting, but ownership makes it feel permanent and menacing. Buddhism dismantles this pattern by asking you to observe something uncomfortable yet liberating. Experiences occur, but they don't belong to anyone. Thoughts arise from conditions. Emotions surge from chemistry, memory, and stimuli. Sensations appear from bodily processes. None of this requires a personal owner. This doesn't mean experiences aren't felt. They are. It means the additional layer of identity is optional. Your suffering isn't caused by the thought or emotion itself, but by how you wrap it in self-narrative. Notice the mechanism. At night, simple restlessness appears. Instead of just being felt, it becomes, "Why am I like this?" Passing sadness transforms into, "There's something wrong with me." The experience hasn't changed, but the interpretation has converted it into a problem demanding resolution. Personalization triggers urgency. If something is happening to you, it must be immediately fixed. This urgency maintains nervous system activation and prevents sleep. Buddhism teaches removing urgency by removing ownership. Try this before sleep. When a thought arises, Don't ask what it reveals about you. Ask what conditions produced it. Fatigue, habit, memory, stress, biology. Once you identify the causes, the personal charge dissipates. The thought becomes an occurrence, not a judgment. This shift is subtle, yet profound. Without personalization, emotions complete their natural cycle. They rise, peak, and dissolve. With personalization, they become trapped in interpretation and cycle endlessly. Buddhism emphasizes this because the self depends on ownership. The moment you say, "my suffering," the self gains something to defend, analyze, and perpetuate. When ownership releases, the self loses significance. With that loss comes relief. Many fear this teaching, assuming it denies responsibility. It doesn't. Responsibility exists at the behavioral level, not the identity level. You can take responsibility for actions without converting every internal experience into a personal deficiency. Before sleep, responsibility is irrelevant. There's nothing to do. Nighttime personalization serves no purpose except prolonging suffering. Buddhism invites you to recognize this and stop participating. When you allow experiences to arise without claiming them, unexpected calm appears. Not because everything feels pleasant, but because nothing feels like crisis. The body relaxes when it's no longer assaulted by interpretation. Over time, this practice transforms how you relate to difficulty during waking hours, too. You stop interpreting every mood as a statement about your value. You stop treating every thought as reflecting reality. Life becomes lighter because less of it is carried personally. Sleep improves because your mind no longer feels responsible for managing every internal fluctuation. You stop lying awake attempting self-repair. There's nothing to repair. Experiences are simply occurring, that's all. Buddhism's insight here is straightforward and destabilizing. Suffering continues not because life is harsh, but because you insist on making every experience about you. When that insistence dissolves, suffering releases its hold. Before sleep, you have a unique opportunity to practice this directly. Allow experiences to occur without attaching identity to them. No owner, no narrative, just motion. In that simplicity, the mind discovers rest, not because it resolved anything, but because it finally stopped personalizing everything. Part 10. Letting go isn't action, it's stopping interference. Most people fundamentally misunderstand letting go. They approach it as something to accomplish, a technique, an exertion. They attempt releasing thoughts, relaxing muscles, dissolving tension. This effort frequently backfires. The mind constricts, frustration accumulates, and sleep retreats further. Buddhism cuts through this confusion with a simple yet uncomfortable truth. Letting go isn't an action. It's what remains when you cease interfering. Interference operates subtly. It manifests as adjusting your breathing, monitoring your condition, verifying whether you're sufficiently relaxed, evaluating how well the practice is working. None of this feels forceful, but it's still control. And control, regardless of gentleness, maintains nervous system activation. Before sleep, interference runs constantly. The mind attempts managing the transition into rest. Am I falling asleep yet? Why am I still awake? I need to calm down. These thoughts seem logical, but they sustain attention and prevent natural shutdown. Buddhism teaches noticing this management impulse without responding to it. Allow breath to breathe itself. Let the body settle at its own pace. Let attention drift without correction. This feels counterintuitive because you've been conditioned to believe effort produces outcomes. Sleep disproves that assumption nightly. You don't fall asleep by doing something. You fall asleep by stopping control, stopping evaluation, stopping the need to orchestrate the process. Letting go is what occurs when you stop fixing the present moment. When the mind ceases correcting, awareness rests without friction. The system transitions from doing to being without instruction. This explains why sleep often arrives when you abandon trying to sleep. The instant effort ceases, the body assumes command. Buddhism recognizes this and teaches trusting it instead of battling it. Letting go also applies to emotional content. You don't need to discharge emotions. Only stop holding them in position through interpretation. When you stop explaining, justifying, or resisting an emotion, it completes itself organically. Many believe they're ineffective at letting go because thoughts persist. That's a misunderstanding. Letting go doesn't mean thought's absence. It means interference's absence with thought. Thoughts can arise and pass freely without capturing attention. Before sleep, permit the mind to wander without commentary. Don't pursue, don't suppress, don't adjust. This neutrality establishes conditions for rest. Over time, this insight transforms how you approach difficulty in life. You stop forcing understanding. You stop demanding resolution. You learn waiting without strain. This patience isn't passive. It's grounded. Buddhism's final lesson before rest is quiet and unspectacular. There's nothing to accomplish, nothing to perfect, nothing to release. When interference stops, letting go occurs independently, and in that absence of effort, the mind finally rests. Part 11. Peace doesn't require self-repair. One of the deepest assumptions fueling your mental exhaustion is the belief that something about you is fundamentally flawed and requires fixing. This belief conceals itself beneath self-improvement, introspection, discipline, even spiritual practice. Buddhism exposes this assumption, not to make you complacent, but to remove a burden you are never intended to carry. Notice your mind's behavior before sleep. It reviews the day and immediately begins diagnosing what you did wrong, what you should have done differently, what type of person you are because of it. This feels responsible, even virtuous, but it's actually a form of self-surveillance, and surveillance never generates peace. The belief that you must repair yourself to deserve rest is among the most damaging ideas you've internalized. It keeps the mind laboring long after it should cease. It transforms sleep into a reward instead of a biological necessity. Buddhism states this plainly. Peace isn't something you earn through self-correction. Peace is what remains when you stop attacking yourself. This doesn't mean you never evolve or transform. It means growth doesn't require self-rejection. The perpetual internal message, "I'm not enough yet," creates chronic tension. The nervous system stays activated because it believes improvement is necessary for security. Before sleep, this belief becomes poisonous. There's nothing you can repair at that hour. No revelation will redeem the day. No mental labor will rewrite your identity. Yet the mind persists because it has conflated worth with performance. Buddhism dismantles this by highlighting simple reality. Awareness doesn't need improvement to exist. You're conscious whether your thoughts are brilliant or foolish. You breathe whether your life makes sense or not. Existence is already occurring without your permission. When you perceive this clearly, self-repair loses urgency. You stop treating every imperfection as danger. You stop using rest as negotiation currency. The body relaxes when it's no longer under continuous assessment. This feels uncomfortable initially. The mind feels exposed without its improvement agenda. There can be guilt for not striving harder. But that guilt is conditioned, not truth. Before sleep, permit yourself to be incomplete, not temporarily, but fundamentally. Every human being is incomplete. Attempting to mentally resolve that reality only generates suffering. Accepting it generates rest. This acceptance doesn't weaken you, it stabilizes you. When you're no longer warring with yourself, change becomes possible without desperation. But at night, change is beside the point. What matters is allowing the system to stand down. Watch what occurs when you stop scanning for what's defective in you. Thoughts still emerge, but they lose their edge. Emotions surface, but they don't feel accusatory. There's space to rest without justification. Buddhism's insight here is quiet yet radical. You're permitted to rest even if you're imperfect, even if you failed, even if your life is unresolved. Peace isn't the outcome of self-repair. Peace is what surfaces when the repairing stops. Before sleep, you don't need to improve. You only need to stop demanding that you be someone else. When that demand dissolves, the mind finally releases, and sleep arrives not as reward, but as return to what was always permitted. Part 12. Nothing requires holding in the darkness. There's a moment every night when holding on becomes unnecessary. Most people miss it because they're too occupied, gripping their thoughts, their identity, their problems, their expectations. Buddhism points directly to this moment and offers something radical. When the lights extinguish, nothing needs carrying forward. During waking hours, holding on feels functional. You hold plans to stay organized. You hold memories for self-protection. You hold identity to navigate the world. But at night, all of this becomes burden. There's nothing to accomplish, no one to perform for, no future requiring management. Yet the mind keeps clenching as though releasing would invite danger. This holding pattern is deeply conditioned. You've been trained believing vigilance equals responsibility, that loosening your grip means something will slip, be lost, go wrong. Buddhism challenges this belief not with reassurance, but with observation. Look closely before sleep. What exactly are you holding? A conversation already concluded, a mistake that cannot be reversed, a version of tomorrow existing only in imagination. None of these require your attention in darkness. They persist only because you continue supplying energy to them. Holding feels active, but it's actually disguised fear. Fear of losing control, becoming irrelevant, facing emptiness. Buddhism doesn't ask you to confront these fears directly. It asks you to stop nourishing them. When you stop holding a thought, it doesn't require pushing away. It simply dissolves. The mind resists initially because holding feels familiar. Releasing feels like stepping into nothingness. But that nothingness isn't void. It's unburdened awareness. This explains the subtle panic people often experience right before falling asleep. It's not because something harmful is occurring. It's because the mind is losing its objects. No thoughts to grasp, no identity to rehearse, no narrative to maintain. The ego experiences this as loss. The body experiences it as relief. Buddhism teaches trusting the body over the ego in this moment. The body knows how to rest. It doesn't need stories to function. It doesn't need tomorrow's reassurance. It only needs permission to stop bracing. Letting go at night isn't dramatic. It's quiet, almost mundane. You stop pursuing thoughts. You stop monitoring your state. You stop carrying the day forward. There's no grand release, only effort's absence. Many waits for peaceful feelings before releasing. Buddhism reverses this sequence. Peace isn't the precondition for letting go. Letting go is the precondition for peace. This insight completely transforms your relationship with sleep. Sleep is no longer something you pursue or orchestrate. It becomes what happens when you cease interfering. You don't need to reach for it. Only stop holding what obstructs it. Over time, this lesson extends beyond night. You begin noticing how much suffering stems from unnecessary clinging to outcomes, roles, self-opinions. The night teaches you gently but relentlessly that none of these are required for existence. Every time you fall asleep, you practice releasing the day. And every time you wake, you're reborn without having held anything. Buddhism uses this daily cycle as evidence. Letting go is safe. Before sleep, remind yourself of this truth. There's nothing requiring protection in darkness, nothing demanding solution, nothing requiring performance. When you finally stop holding, the mind doesn't collapse, it rests. And in that rest, you discover something simple and liberating. You were never meant to carry everything into the night. You've now witnessed the pattern Buddhism keeps indicating repeatedly from different perspectives. The mind suffers not because life is too heavy, but because it insists on carrying what was never meant to be carried into night. Thoughts are mistaken for identity. Craving masquerades as problem-solving. Resistance depletes energy. The self demands constant maintenance. Control refuses loosening. Experiences are taken personally. Letting go is misunderstood as effort. Improvement degrades into self-attack. Silence is avoided, and holding becomes habitual. None of this represents moral failure. It's conditioning. What makes night so powerful is that conditioning naturally weakens. The mind is already releasing whether you assist or not. Buddhism doesn't add to this process. It removes interference. It teaches stopping the patterns that sustain wakefulness and trusting rest's inherent intelligence. If you take one thing from this, let it be this: sleep isn't something you achieve. It's what happens when struggle ends. You don't need the perfect mindset. You don't need the correct emotion. You don't need to resolve your life before closing your eyes. You only need to stop demanding the mind be different from what it is. Night after night, when you allow thoughts to pass without following them, craving to dissolve without satisfying it, identity to loosen without fearing it, and silence to exist without filling it, something fundamental shifts, not dramatically, quietly. The mind relearns how to stand down. And when the mind stands down, the body remembers how to rest. This is why Buddhism treats sleep as practice, not escape. Each night is rehearsal in releasing. Each morning is proof that releasing didn't destroy you. Over time, that proof accumulates. Trust replaces vigilance. Clarity replaces tension. Suffering loosens its hold. You don't wake as a different person. You wake less burdened. And that is enough.